Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast. Our primary objective is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never quit. The reality of life is simple. We all fall. We all fail. At times, we get knocked down. The question is, do we get back up? Are we stronger? Are we better prepared to attain the maximum of our potential? Thank you for joining our No Quit tribe. As you go for your greatness today, never quit. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. Welcome to episode number 303 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is Blessed and Unstoppable. Our quote of the day comes to us from Willie Nelson. When I started counting my blessings, my whole life turned around. For those of you that have supported our mission of spreading positivity by grabbing a copy of our new book, The Positivity Tribe, I can't thank you enough. If you are interested in purchasing a copy, you can head over to Barnes & Noble or Amazon or wherever else books are sold. I'm extremely excited for today's episode. I've been listening to Billy Alsbrooks' message and also watching his videos for the past couple of years, and I'm extremely grateful to Steve Weatherford for introducing him to me. The passion that Billy has for motivating others is both contagious and extremely inspiring. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Billy, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Thank you for having me on today, brother. It's an honor, man. Appreciate you.
I appreciate it. So the first question we ask everybody, and I know the answer, but I still have to ask it, is are you ready to positively impact at least one person today?
Amen. My legacy, my goal is impact 1 billion people. So every day that's on my mind from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. It's impact. So yes, that is the answer to your question.
So the number one objective of our show is to motivate and inspire listeners to never give up. And I was curious if you yourself have either a no-quit story or perhaps a really challenging time in your life where you could have given up or given in, but you didn't.
Wow, there's many of those, man. So many. But I would say the roughest point in my life was watching my dad die in front of me. He died unexpectedly of a stroke, and a few days later he had a blood clot, which took his life. And I saw the last 10 minutes, man, of his life, saw the transition, saw him struggle to breathe, just go through that whole process that nobody ever wants to see. Now, it was so traumatic and so unexpected that it caused PTSD in me and panic attacks. So for the next 7 years, that was my life. Now, up until this point, for 17 years, I'd been in the music business, music artist, had songs on Billboard, music producer, been producing for gold and platinum acts across the country, songwriter, had my own radio show. I was fully immersed in what they call the Hollywood lifestyle, man, the thug life, drug life, party, get it, how you live it. That's how I was doing for 17 years. But this was the turning point of my life, watching my dad pass away in front of me. The panic attacks began the day the doctor came in and confirmed what I'd already seen a few minutes earlier, that my daddy was gone. And I had my first panic attack right there in the emergency room on the floor. And it started out, I'd have one, panic attack a day, to 2 a day, to 4 a day, to the whole day. I was either having a panic attack or expecting to have one. And I had built a lot of things in the music business. I, made a lot of money, had a big name, had businesses and all this. And it completely took me away from that world. I was no longer able to function. I went from being on stage and in front of 20,000 people rapping to being in my bedroom for 2 weeks at a time, scared to come out, having these panic attacks. The only thing I controlled was where I had the panic attack. I didn't control when I had it, but just where I had it. So I would just kind of lock myself up as a recluse in the bedroom, and that's where my life was lived, is through that bedroom. And people would say to me, it's just gonna take time to grieve. 6 months you'll be back to normal. 6 months turned into a year, then a year turned into 2 years, to 3 years, to 4 years, to 5 years. And I tried everything that I knew, every possible thing that I knew to get better, to get my life back. I went to every therapist in town, from the Harvard and Yale's to the community college. I went to, pastors, grief share programs, went to church, got saved again, went to men's groups, you name it, I tried it. And nothing worked. I mean, every single day was my money was getting lower and lower and lower because I couldn't work. I couldn't do my normal lifestyle. So I was getting squeezed financially. It got so bad on the friend level, that world's kind of fickle, the music business that I was in. I had the big entourage, as we call it. My phone would ring 70 times a day. What time we going to the club? Can you get me in the VIP? Can you pick me up in the limo? All this type of stuff. And I remember one day it got so bad to the point where I called AT&T and I said, I need y'all to check my phone. Something's wrong with my phone. So they ran their little check on, did all the little technical stuff and hit me back. And they said, well, everything looks good on our side. Why do you think something's wrong with your phone? And I said, well, it hadn't rang in 2 weeks. Like all my people had left. Just all the people that I thought were solid and in my life were gone. And my money was dwindling. And all I saw was the same outcome my daddy had, that this was going to happen to me. And my mind got stuck in that emergency room where he passed away and never left for 7 years. I was just reliving the past every single day. And so many times, I just wanted to quit and just lay down. I went to the hospital 12 times in 9 months thinking I was going to die, like coming in the emergency room. They'd be like, here comes Billy. Like, they knew me by the first thing when I come through the door. And, but my mind, although there was nothing physically wrong with me, my mind wouldn't accept that. It'd been hijacking, been taken over. And every day I just was living in hell from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. This was my life and had no way to get out of it. So many times I want to lay down and quit. So many times I want to say, I don't know what to do here. There's nothing I can do. What's the purpose and the point of keep trying, keep living, And I remember going out there one day, I started doing this one thing that changed me. When I started having a panic attacks, I'd go outside and walk around this 1 mile block of my house. I had this 1 mile square block. So I'd go out there and start screaming at God. I was mad. He took my daddy and why did you, put these panic attacks on me? Why you not hearing my prayers? And, why did everybody leave me? This, pity party. And then the next part of the walk, I would be, sad and just completely, guilty and remorseful and every emotion you can imagine. This is what I was going through. But I got out there one day and I said, Lord, I've tried everything. It's been almost 5 years to this point and nothing's working. I don't even remember who I was before these panic attacks. I don't even remember that lifestyle anymore. I've been gone from it, so long. I can't see a future and I'm at the end of me. And I said, if you don't heal me, I'm done because I've tried everything I can do. So I cut a deal with him. I said, Lord, I don't have anything to give you. I don't have any money. I don't have, talents, nothing. I don't have anything. It's just me. But I'll do this. If you heal me, then I'll go out and tell the world who did it. And God honored that prayer. He began to work on me, and he brought me the right therapist, put me around some new people. And slowly, it wasn't like an overnight thing, like boom, I'm all better. I still had another 2 years of struggle and trials and tribulations that I had to fight through and go through. But slowly I began to come out of that fog and that 7-year war that I've been going through. And but so many times during that 7-year journey, man, I wanted to just hang up the towel. I wanted to just tap out. I wanted to take the easy route. But my mother had raised me, as a fighter, as a champion, that failure is not an option. We don't quit around here, son. And thanks to her and my father and the way they raised me, man, I didn't give up. Because I don't think if I had had that type of upbringing and I'd been through that situation, I don't think I would have made it. I might have succumbed to the drugs or been in prison or done something crazy, being desperate as I was. But man, there was so many times, brother, that I wanted just to, quit. The struggle, what I always say in the videos, the struggle is real, but so is the God that'll help you overcome it. And he helped me to do it. And that's what I do now. I go out and tell people that God will do the same thing for them. And if they're going through the trial and tribulation, just to keep going, to keep pushing, to keep fighting, and God will bring you out of it.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that backstory. I have heard your story, and I was on a program with Steve Weatherford that you spoke on, and I appreciate you elaborating on that. So you go out and you're talking now. So I wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind just briefly telling our viewers a little bit about what you're doing today and how they can find you, but more importantly, how they can find out more about what you're doing.
Okay, well, for those that don't know me, I'm a motivational speaker, motivational artist, poet, top-selling author. Right now, I'm on a 40-city tour. I'm going around the United States, hitting all the major cities, doing 4-hour seminars called Blessed and Unstoppable. What I do is teach the principles that, help people unlock their life. Every single one of us has greatness in us because greatness made us, right? All we need to do is understand how to pull that out. And, we're not taught in school how to tap into our true potential, our full potential. And going through these struggles and trials and tribulations that I did, God revealed to me these principles that help pull me out of it. So what I do now is go around and teach others, how to tap into it and how to live to their full potential.
So I'm sure you get this question, and I'm curious for your answers, is when you're teaching people, I know that people believe that they have greatness in them. People believe that inside there's all these talents and these skills, whether there's God in their life or not, whether it's the universe. But what is it that allows people to tap into that? And I know that's a tough question because I think so many people are afraid of failure. They're afraid of letting themselves down, other people down. So is there one specific skill set, or is it more just a ongoing learning process that you work with people on?
It depends on the individual, but the one thing that it all hinges on is vision. You have to be able to see that person mentally first that you want to become before you'll ever become it. And see, like in my situation with the panic attacks, my mind, the only vision I had was death and dying, just like my dad, the struggle. And that's where my mind stayed. And it wasn't until God planted a verse in front of me, Jeremiah 29:11, he gave me this verse, which is, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not harm you, plans to give you a hope in the future." See, that was a new vision. The enemy was telling me all the good days are gone. This is going to be your life to struggle. All that stuff, the old life is gone. And this is just going to be hell every single day. That was his vision. But when I read that verse, I understood that was not God's design. And that was not God's plan for me to be going through that struggle. That God actually had a positive outlook and a positive plan for me. And once I bought into that new vision, then I could begin to change my life. But until I got the right vision for my life and understood that, I was stuck for 7 years in this crazy war that I was going through. So whatever trial, tribulation that, whoever's listening to me right now, whatever you're going through, whether it's, health issues, financial issues, marriage issues, family issues, whatever it is, you've got to get a new vision for the outcome that you want in life. You have to build it first in your mind because our thinking will eventually collapse into an equivalent reality. So the way we think, the way we envision, the way we imagine, if we imagine it long enough, the outside world will begin to reflect that. So what I do is I start basically with that step, in the seminar, that step one is vision. The word says where there is no vision, the people perish. And that's true with business. When a business loses a vision, it becomes susceptible and vulnerable to failure or to be overcome in the competition. Same thing with marriage. When a marriage loses its vision, it's struggling, it's vulnerable. And same thing with health. If we don't have a vision for our bodies and our mind and the way we want to look and feel, we will continue to struggle. So I always start with that principle right there because that principle unlocks every other one. You've got to have, the vision in place for you to build a new life.
That's so powerful. And I know a lot of people sometimes use the words affirmations and positive self-talk. Would that be something that falls in line with the vision?
Yes, that goes along with it. See, now I grew up in positivity. My mother and father raised me in, positive thinking. So when I was going through these panic attacks, I was doing the affirmations, but the affirmations weren't working because my mind was in a different place. My mind still had a different vision. Now, affirmations work when they're in alignment with a vision that is equivalent to what you are saying. If you can't live in another world and then start saying something else, you're in conflict, internal conflict, and you diminish the power of the words. Not saying that the words don't have power, but you diminish them, and dilute them by the incorrect and accurate vision. What we have to do is get an alignment and consolidation, which is your mind, the vision that you have. Your mouth must begin to speak and call forth the fruit of truth which you are seeing, and then our actions must align, and we seize it by what we do every single day. Now, when you get all three of these things lined up, then you can make a powerful change in your life. So the words have a place in it, because the word says death and life and the power of the tongue, those that love it shall eat the fruits thereof. That means we can speak and begin to create, but it must be spoken from a place of a person with vision. And then you're seeing the vision and you're projecting upon your mouth the thing that you are seeing. Then it has power.
Yeah, and I appreciate you touching on that, because I think that goes into some along the lines of affirmations and law of attraction. And I think where
Right.
sometimes people miss the boat is it's not just thinking it, it's not just saying it. You have to go ahead and take the action and put yourself, and
Right.
obviously it starts with your mind. So I'm glad
Right.
you touched on that. An interesting question we ask each guest, and I'm intrigued by your answer, is if you had to define yourself, but you could only use one word, what word did you pick?
I'd say fire, passion. See, to me, I want to live on fire every single day. Because contrary to what the world believes, positive thinking won't take you to the top. You have to burn your way there. You have to become fire. And when you become fire and passion, everything can originate out of that fire, man. And you can burn away the things that don't belong in your life until that life looks like the way you want it.
You, speaking of some of your words and some of the things that you say, you have a question that you have in a lot of your videos, and it's, are you living, or is your life living you? I wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind just briefly touching on it, because I think it's very powerful if people really take the time to listen to it.
Yeah, it says, are you living life, or is life living you? And what I mean by that is most people are just getting up every day, going through the motions, living a life they were never designed to live. Doing a job that they weren't designed to do. Just, they've sold what we just talked about, the fire, the passion. God puts a passion in us, a fire in us, something that we're called to do and something that only we can do, right? We have that, but most people trade that in. They trade the fire in for that paycheck, for the job that just gets some just over broke, right? You're not really happy. You're not really on fire. You're living maybe, one day a week. What I say, the way the schedule set up today, we're usually working 5-6 days a week. So we might get a Sunday to spend a couple hours with the kids and have 1 or 2 hours with the wife. And other than that, we're living somebody else's dream, helping somebody else build their vision and not the one God put in us. So my thing is, to live life, it starts with getting that new vision and then getting up every single day and taking some action to move yourself to that vision. It's okay if you're in that situation right now. You're in the job that not passionate about and not making the kind of money that you want, not happy. It's okay that you're in there right now, as long as you are beginning to work on the thing that God put in you. Start right now, beginning to dream and beginning to build that life that you want to do, and get up every single day, own the day. All success is a long list of todays done right. We get up every single day and own today. And if we string enough of them together, the world calls us successful. So what you got to do is start where you're at right now. Do one thing today that will move you toward that life that you want to live. Just one. If you get up every single day and did one thing, one action, and you did it effectively, that would bring you toward your goal, eventually you would get there. 6 months from now, you'd be, given the 2 weeks notice at that job, or 9 months, whatever it is, whatever it takes. Just get up every single day and begin to build that life that you want to build. And if you hold that vision in here long enough, the world will begin to reflect it. Then you'll start living, truly getting excited to get up in the morning. Not like, oh man, I gotta go work 12 hours at this job that I can't stand, around these people that I can't stand, doing something that I can't stand. That is not living. We were designed to do more than just pay bills. We were designed to live on fire. Everything in your life, you need to set on fire. The relationships, the work, the ministry, the relationship with God, the relationship with the kids, every single aspect of your life needs to be on fire. So that's why when you asked me earlier what the word was, fire, because fire sets everything else in motion.
You've said a lot of powerful stuff in that answer, but the one thing that I think really stood out too is you talk about what we talk about is small victories, one thing every single day. And when you compound those small victories, those one things every day, after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
right,
those small wins lead to huge victories. And I think that's something that in this social media world of instant gratification, I think people miss that. They're looking at other people's highlight reels. They're looking at somebody's social media posts and saying, well, he or she is at this level and I could get there too. It should happen, an hour, 2 hours, and 3 hours. And I think to your point, it's about consistently doing it. And I'm glad you touched on that, because so many people today think of it as, well, just do it and it'll happen. And it's not going to take 50 years, but the reality is it's also not going to take 50 minutes. So I'm really glad that you touched on that.
I like to expand on that a little bit. I'll tell you a story. You had my book earlier. You showed me the first quote in that book is, "Success is a marathon of consistency, walked out one day at a time." See, we have to be consistent every single day. Now, the reason I put that quote at the beginning of that book is because I learned that the hard way. Okay, what you mentioned earlier about seeing, we're looking at somebody else and they're at a certain level and we're here, what we call scoreboard watch. Like we're looking up there and seeing what's on our scoreboard, right? And the greats, they dreamed a vision, so we know where we want to go. But then once they dream it, they come back into the reality and just focus on the principles. The principles are what put points on the scoreboard. If I get up every day and tap into the principles and unlock the principles, eventually my life will begin to reflect that which I wanted to reflect. Now, I learned it the hard way with that book. I started out, God had put a dream in me, a vision in me for that book. So I got very excited, very passionate, sit down like we do a lot of times and just dive right in, right? So for the first 2 weeks, I'm just typing all day, every day, sitting in front of a laptop. Now, I get to about 100 pages in, and I take my eyes off of what I'm doing here, the principles, the process that will produce that book. I take my eyes off of that, and I look up at the scoreboard. And what I did, I said, man, this book is supposed to be around 300 pages by the time I get done with it. And I've been killing myself for 2 weeks, and I'm only at 100 pages. There's no way I'm going to be able to get to 300. It just seems so far away. It was like the East Coast to the West Coast. It seems so far away from where I was at that time. And I began to get discouraged. Instead of just getting up and writing the next line, putting the next sentence together, I started looking at that scoreboard, and I got so discouraged by the distance that I was going to have to traverse and couldn't see how I was going to do it. I quit. I said, there's no way I can do it. For 2 months, that book that you just held was sitting on a Word file, and I completely give it up. I said, there's no way I'm going to do it. But this guy sent me an email one day. The reason he sent me the email had nothing to do with the lesson that I got out of it. God was trying to send me a lesson through somebody else. And it was an article about Stephen King and the guy who had wrote Game of Thrones. They were out on a book tour together. And the guy from Game of Thrones asked Stephen King, he said, you put a book out, Stephen, every 3 to 4 months, and it's a bestseller. How do you do it? He said, it takes me 9 months to write a chapter. And you write a book in 3 to 4 months and it's a bestseller. How do you do this? And Stephen said, my process is simple. I get up every single day and write between 3 to 5 pages a day. That's it. I set a certain time and I say, I'm going to write 3 to 5 pages, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to critique it. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to edit it. I'm just going to write. I'm not going to let anything get away. I'm just going to sit at the table and write. And he said, in 30 days, now I've got between 90 and 150 pages done. 3 months time, I got 450 pages, which is usually the book's length. Then I go into edit mode, chopping, refining, and editing how I want it to be, and the book is done. He said, I don't look at the end results. I just look at today and getting those 3 to 5 pages done. Now, once I understood the technique, the process, the light bulb went off. Okay, I got 200 pages left. If I wrote 5 pages a day times 2, divide by 200, okay, that's 40 days. I'll have this book done. So all I did was focus on every single day writing those 5 pages. And you know what? The crazy thing happened. 2 months later, that book was done. So that was a great lesson that I learned, man, the hard way. And that's why I put that quote there in the front. So maybe some of you have got big goals and big ambitions, and they might seem impossible. The way we break the impossible down and make it possible is break it down small. If we break the big down to the small, then what the world calls impossible becomes possible. So whatever it is you're dreaming, just figure out how to own today and do what needs to be done to build it today. And if you do this every single day, eventually those points, those things will begin to show up and reflect on the scoreboard.
That's a powerful story, and I think it's the simplicity of doing the same thing and being consistent and not taking Stephen King or anybody else that's a successful author into simplicity, but it's the consistency of, okay, I'm going to do it from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. or whatever it is. But like you said, you fast forward 2 months, 3 months, and that book's done. You finish those 300, 400 pages, and I think that's the beauty of going ahead and taking that action. So I'm glad you touched on that. Interesting question we ask is, if you could go back and give the 20-year-old version of yourself just one piece of advice, what would it be?
Own the truth. Own the truth. Back when I was 20, I was in the rap business, but I was in half truths. And I was living the, charade and, half gangster, half drug dealer, half rapper, half, just, a little bit and pieces of everyone else and part of me. And I was living, straddling the fence, half lies, man. And you can't fully achieve the peace on the inside being anything but yourself. You have to, get comfortable with the mirror. I'm not saying that we can't change and we can't improve and we can't get better. Yes, we can do those things, but the truth is on the inside of you. You have to be you. You have to be real. You have to be who God made you to be. And if you try to be anything other than that, there's going to be distortions. There's going to be strife and turmoil on the inside of you. You never really have peace until you say, okay, I am okay with myself. I put a quote out actually today on this. The moment that you own the truth is the moment the truth stops owning you. Right? So we have to own who we are. And once we do, that opens up massive doors. People are trained in this world that from the moment they're born that they're not good enough. It's like we're always missing something. In the womb, we know who we are, why we are, what God has called us to do, the abilities, the talents, the powers of heaven. We know all this stuff. But the moment we come into the world and the doctor slaps us on the back, the world starts bombarding us with lies, telling us what we're not. You're not tall enough. You're not small enough. You're too fat. You're too skinny. You're not athletic. You can't sing. You're not coordinated. Whatever it is, the world is trying to bombard us with those lies. And, after years and years and years of hearing this stuff, we get what I call amnesia. We forget who we were and start adopting this illusion identity that the world has called us and labeled upon us. And we begin to believe, and we think that we're not good enough. We can't, do what, that is in us. We don't have the capability. We can't be as good as somebody else, or can't climb the ladder of success, success that nobody in our neighborhood has came out of it. So then we must not be able to, right? Or nobody in our family's ever had money. So that means we can't have money, right? All these false illusions. We got to starve the illusion, feed the dream, and once we return to our true selves and own who we really are, that's when things begin to happen and things begin to manifest. You're walking a different level of power than somebody who's walking in half truths. And I said it on one of the videos. I said, truth is the couture for greatness. If you look at the greats, man, they drape themselves down in truth. You've got to be in truth. See, all greatness is, you mentioned earlier, about Stephen King and breaking it down simple. Well, if you really look under a microscope, all greatness is just mastery of the basics. That's all it is. Like the great football teams, they don't need to run trick plays. They get up all day and will beat you line play by play with the basics, blocking and tackling, catching, holding the ball, and just doing the basics. That's what wins championships. And it's the same in everything in life. Master the basics. When you master the basics, greatness will come foul to you.
I love that. And it's so true. And what you talk about, the best teams, it's the best fill in the blank, the best musicians, the best actors, the best entertainers. So if I could give you the opportunity to have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick?
Right now, as far as people living, Elon Musk, man, this guy's the visionary. He's the one saying, I'm gonna put mankind on Mars on a SpaceX rocket. This guy's running multiple companies all at the same time, and he's running Tesla, SpaceX, Boring, and the solar company all at once. And each one of those are massive companies, like Apple's individually. And this guy's running for them, man. And this guy's got true vision. He's changing the world every single day that this man takes a breath. He's changing the world. So I'd like to sit down with that guy. As far as the one living. In the past, there's so many in the past, man. I probably couldn't tell you on the past. I have so many people that I admire and look up to and read. I'm an avid reader, man. So I love the greats. I study all the greats, man. But there's so many in the past. It'd be too hard to pick on that.
So, got to ask you, because we talk about books all the time and the power of books. So, is there anything that you're currently reading, or perhaps you read something recently that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
I recommend something that triggered me and started me. What changed me was in 2000, I came across, because this one time I wasn't really reading that much. In 2000, I was still in the rap world, but I came across this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And in that book, he talked about self-education and how we're not taught what we really need to know out in the real world. We're not taught that in school, and that we need to take the responsibility of educating ourselves and putting this stuff in us. And man, that just changed me. From that moment forward, I'd stayed in a bookstore 3 or 4 hours every single day from 2000 to about 2015, man. Just, immersing myself in philosophy, psychology, self-help, personal development, personal growth, religion, business, leadership, history, art, man. I would just immerse myself in it. But I would definitely say that kind of opened the the gate for me. And then the second book would be Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, that whole era, anything from William Blake's time all the way to the 1950s. If you read the personal development and self-help stuff in that era, it seems to be so far ahead of what is going on today. I go back and read some of this stuff and it just blows my mind. I was like, how did these guys in the 1800s understand this stuff back then? There was no Google, no internet, no YouTube videos. The world was disconnected, and everybody was separate. There wasn't, you couldn't just go talk to somebody like you can today. Everybody was separated in the distance and stuff like that. And these guys were just, incredibly enlightened. If I want to really tap into depth, I will go back to that era and grab somebody from those, eras of personal development, from, Norman Vincent Peale, you name it, like all these guys from that era, man. And they will open you up. Definitely do that. Graduate back to the classics of personal development.
And I think and Grow Rich, I always get this wrong. I have to go back and look, but it was either written in 1936 or 1939. So it's crazy that it's just as relevant almost 100 years later.
Amen. It took him 25 years to write that book.
Yeah, he did it with a huge project, and you can tell he put time into it. So for our listeners that want to find out more about you, not only your YouTube channel, but also your tour that you're doing, as well as your book, what's the best way for them to do that? And then are you active on social media?
Okay, on social media, you can find me at Billy Alsbrooks. The way you spell the last name is Alsbrooks. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snap, you name it. Everything at Billy Alsbrooks. As far as YouTube, if you hadn't heard me on YouTube, go to YouTube. I got over 200 and something motivational, inspirational videos. They're all free. They're anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour long, whatever you need. If you want a quick 5 minutes boost, or you need an hour to work out, whatever it is, you want to pour some stuff in you, you got it all there. It's all free. It's same thing there. It's youtube.com /Billy Alsbrooks. Now to find out about the tour or my book, you can go to blessedandunstoppable.com. That's blessedandunstoppable.com.
And then last question I have for you is the same question I ask everybody, is if you have some parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners today.
Yeah, wherever you're at, mentally, there's going to be struggles in life. The struggle is real, but it's how we respond to that struggle that will define us. So the question is right now to you, how are you going to respond? How are you going to respond? Now, I'm betting on you. You got a champion in you, or you wouldn't be watching this right here. You wouldn't be watching this kind of material. And God didn't cross our path by mistake. He always strategically brings people across our path that we need to gain something from, to learn something from, to open up something inside of us. And I'm telling you right now, the struggle is real, but so is the God to help you. Just keep on fighting, keep on rising, never tap out. Failure is not an option. See, failure doesn't have any power when we reframe our circumstances. All we have to do is reframe our circumstances. And then what looks like failure just becomes a setup, right? A setup for a comeback. And that's what I'm saying. Somebody out there listening to me right now, you're at the turning point. You can quit and lay down, or you can keep on fighting and you can get that victory. And I'm telling you, just keep on fighting. God will not fail you. God will not fail you. Keep on fighting.
I think that's a perfect way to end today's episode. So I really, really appreciate you. And for our listeners, definitely check out Billy. I'm actually going to see him live in December out in California, and I can't wait. So check out his stuff. It'll be in the show notes. And thank you again so much for being with us today.
Man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for having me on, brother.
Thank you for listening to episode number 303. Billy absolutely delivered, and with over 25 million views of his videos, he is 100% impacting the lives of millions of people throughout the world. Billy touched upon some really important things, but when he spoke about vision and the importance of your mind and what you feed it, it really hit me. We also spoke about one of my favorite topics, books. I will end today's episode by borrowing something from Billy. I challenge each and every one of you to ask yourself this question: are you living life, or is life living you? And remember, we rise by lifting others up.
And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.